Mount Moosilauke. Here are the key facts and figures you need to know. Moosilauke is a roughly 2-hour, 20-minute drive from Boston, located near the towns of Benton, Woodstock, and Warren, New Hampshire. Moosilauke is 4,802 feet tall, which is 10th out of the 48 in terms of height. Elevation gain is 2,506 feet.
We hiked this mountain in a loop. We went up the Gorge Brook Trail and down the Carriage Road Trail to the Snapper Trail, joining back to Gorge Brook on the way down. It's approximately an 8 to 8.5 mile hike. To see this route on all trails, search Mount Moosilauke in South Peak Loop. All Trails has the loop trail we did rated as moderate, and it was number 4 of the 4,000 footers that we hiked with the girls in Willow, following Tecumseh, Cannon, and Hale.
Mount Moosilauke, 4,000 footer, number 4 for us. This is the Moosilauke Lodge here. Actually, Mount Moosilauke is one that we've now done a lot more hiking in the 4,000 footers, and for people who are thinking about getting into hiking, this mountain strikes me as a particularly great early mountain to start. For its proximity to Boston, you'll see Moosilauke actually has a ton to offer in terms of variety of like bridge crossings, waterfalls, amazing views. In the start right here, you can see this ravine lodge is just an excellent spot to get started from in terms of bathrooms and parking. And
the only thing I will say, I think it's an excellent one, or an excellent early one to start on, but I have noticed that I've seen, just on hiking Facebook groups, that a lot of people use Moosilauke as their final hike because it's a really pretty hike, and I can kind of see that it's a good one to maybe have a little celebration on the top. You get some gorgeous photos. It's a nice distance, and like you said, there's a lot of variety to it.
That shows you obviously the quality of the mountain, and you'll see at the end of our video our ratings for it. And I think with a little bit of hindsight, I bump our rating up a little bit, but we'll get into that later.
Should we talk about name pronunciation?
Yeah, let's get into it. So is it Moosilauke or Moosilauke? What are you going with?
I'm going with Moosilauke, and I just particularly because I like the way it sounds. But we did try and look it up even before we hiked it.
We have this reference book that I've talked about in some of these other videos for the 48 called The 4,000 Footers of the White Mountains. It's a great reference book, and it says the sentiment seems to be fairly split.
Of our journey to the top of Mount Moosilauke.
And the name, apparently, it's believed it comes all the way back to the Abenaki Native American tribe, where the word Moosie stands for bald and Ak or Aki stands for place. So obviously referencing the beautiful summit that you'll see later as the bald place.
We start on Gorge Brook, but because we did it in a loop, at the summit we're going to take a different trail down, and that Snapper Trail is it's Carriage Road on the way down to Snapper Trail that gets you back to Gorge Brook.
Gorge Brook, I believe, is probably the most popular trail to get up to the top of Moosilauke, in that it's got a very gentle grade. It has these stream crossings, which the girls always love, dipping their hats in the water, and it's just fun crossing the bridges, and it's moderate. It has a lot going for it.
It does. I'm noticing that I believe this might be the first time that I bring poles. I think we got poles for the kids before we did Hale, which was our third hike with them. I think that I decided that especially with descents, I would have a hard time on the old joints with descent. So I believe this is the first one where I brought them with me, and sometimes I don't really need them for going up. No, I can just tuck them in my backpack kind of on more recent hikes, but I think in general it's been beneficial to at least have that possibility of easing off some of the tension on the joints, especially on the way down. So
absolutely, yeah. I started using the poles in some of these longer treks with my buddies that are captured in some of these other videos like the Pemi Loop and our Hot Tot Traverse attempts, and without a doubt, I'm a total believer in hiking with poles. There's just no doubt about it. It takes a lot of pressure off your joints, like you said. And
these are not fancy, high-tech poles. These are ones we got off Amazon. I think they're $35 or something like that. So, and I'm sure that there's nicer ones that are maybe a little lighter, but these aren't extremely long hikes like those trucks that you go on are, the weight might become a factor, but it's just kind of, they collapse, you can tuck them in your backpack, they're really not all that bulky, and if you lose them, you lose them. But
Yeah,
they've been good, we still have them.
If some sweet sponsor of maker of poles out there wants to reach out, it's Greg at Running More Cameras, I think. Is that my Gmail? I don't even know. Anyway.
But we're going to go up.
So
Gorge
Snappers
Brook.
to the left.
Yep.
Gorge Brook we're going to take up, but on the way down, we will merge at this point.
Did you know, Ashley, that in 1924, a Model T Ford made it to the top of the mountain? Which,
What?
Yeah, I don't really understand how that's possible. I mean, my friends and I, we always talk
Certainly
about...
not on this trail.
Certainly not on that trail. We always talk about how crazy to think of horses going up these bridle paths, and that kind of blows my mind. But reading that a Model T Ford, I feel like a modern day even pickup truck or like Hummer would struggle to get to the top of a mountain. I don't really understand looking at this terrain. It said it took them 3 hours, and the wheels spun so much that the odometer registered as a 30-mile trek.
How do they know where to cut down trees to make a path?
Forget the how, it's the why.
3.6 and it's 3.7.
It's kind of funny to see we're still in sneaker mode on these hikes, which is fine, and especially this is not an overly long hike, but in our later hikes that get a little bit more, at least long, we kind of started upping our footwear and doing more of a hiking shoe. For me in particular, I really like a little bit of more ankle support, and I think it was starting
I
with...
think Garfield is next, I think, and that's the
Okay.
one where for sure we realized we had to up our gear and clothing game a little bit.
Yes, because when you go out on these trails, you don't really necessarily know what you're going to hit in terms of wetness, because even if it's a perfectly dry day, depending on what's going on in the mountain, whether it's spring and you're getting melting, or just sometimes there's different weather on the mountains where I'm often surprised there's actually a decent amount of mud, even though we haven't gotten much rain in a while. So your shoes will become kind of pretty saturated really quickly, and on a nice weather day that's fine, but you'll see in Garfield we ended up hitting some cold weather that we didn't think we would, so we had wet, cold feet, and that was really kind of the catalyst to us saying, okay, I think we need something a little more rugged for these mountains.
I want to walk in a cloud, I even know.
Remember two things.
Yeah?
Watch out for slugs.
Okay.
And two, there's lemon hearts ahead.
There's what ahead?
Lemon hearts.
Lemon hearts, they're little green heart shaped. They're like clovers, but you can chew on them and they're really
Wow.
refreshing.
Lemon hearts. And I'm not sure we ever found the lemon hearts. You will see later, but
Thanks, buddy.
I do love it. My sense is that
Day.
this kiddo and his mom were not out hiking to bag a 4,000 footer. I think they were just kind of out wandering in the woods and enjoying
I think that's a lemon heart.
No.
kind of all the little treasures that you find out there and just having a nice little morning walk.
I bet they just sit out in the lukewarm.
Ross
sand
McKinney.
mountains.
Builder of
There's a red thing
cabins,
right there.
builder of men.
Yeah,
That's
there's a red thing right there.
I bet he was like a Ron Swanson. That's what I picture him to be.
I think we talked about that at the time we were binging Parks and Rec, and
a little.
absolutely a Ron Swanson type comes to mind. That guy had to have had a mustache.
Wore plaid and corduroy.
They're sort of red. And
This stuff right here is really, it just shows you how awesome it is to get outside of your houses. When I think about COVID and how we're all sort of trapped in right
Let's
now
go
more
catch
than
up.
ever, how much I appreciate being in the mountains and doing this exact kind of thing, just sort of exploring nature. And of course, you and I don't know anything about what kind of plants
No,
are which,
no.
and we're not really teaching them
We would die
so
very
much, but
quickly.
we're exploring and we're outside and just enjoying nature. It's the
All right,
best.
we're roughly 1.7 miles in, and we have reached some vertical hiking.
Yeah, it is. There was a trail one time where there was actually like blueberries and in a pretty high up zone, and I think we knew that they were going to be edible, and we're still just oh, I don't know, they could be poisonous. Let's not.
Yeah, we should take a mountain survivalist
We should.
course at some point.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
All right, we're coming up on a nice view here. And the trail actually here was really nice and smooth. Oh, that's beautiful.
This little spot might be referred to as the balcony. Somebody who's really into hiking and knows this mountain will maybe correct me, but beautiful spot.
lemon hearts there. That may have been one. It doesn't smell like lemon, and it doesn't look like it has any water in it.
It smells a little bit like not
Smells
lemony, but
citrusy.
like, so you said like refreshing. or
Yeah, it
whatever?
smells refreshing.
Going back to this being our fourth hike, I really felt like this, and you'll especially later on, like this was a really good kind of like taste of the White Mountains. Mostly because you start getting these really gorgeous views of. We're looking at the president. Are we looking at the presidentials here? Or at least on the top, we are.
The presidential range is definitely visible from the summit, and it easily could be some of those big peaks way off in the distance. It's just hard for me to know exactly which direction we're facing. But either way, you'll see more when we get to the summit. But Moosilauke is generous with pretty beautiful views.
It
Once you
is.
start to get to this part of the hike, it's glorious.
And it's always exciting. You never really know when you're going to get that first view. So it's always nice when you get a little kind of snippet where the trees are tiny, you're fully in the sun. Just because a lot of times these hikes, you're walking through the green tunnel for a while of vegetation, which is lovely, but it's nice when you get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a feeling of kind of euphoria as you get to this point on a hike because you're still approaching the summit, but it's a lot less steep typically. And yeah, when the sun's out and it's not a difficult weather day and you got this kind of bluebird sunshine that we experienced, it's amongst the best parts of a hike, I think, is that sort of approach to the top.
Ooh, look it up there.
Oh, cool.
Right here. I think that this spot right here was kind of our most like, oh my God, like, I don't know that the video even does it justice, but this was really beautiful where you come out of the trees and you start having this kind of like open range summit where you can see the summit, but it's actually quite like a distance ahead. So you have all this gorgeous vegetation and greenery to your left and right. You have these rocks, but it's not this crazy like bouldering that you have to do to. So it's just you're kind of enjoying this whole stretch up to the summit is just gorgeous.
I couldn't agree more. This is where when you say some people finish here, I can totally picture that because without a doubt, we didn't really see hardly anybody else around. And in the book, it was saying there's a roughly 100-acre alpine zone at the top of this mountain, which is just a huge stretch of open, expansive land with fairly 360-degree views. Yeah, it's hard to translate fully on video, but just how much...
It's incredible.
This was a real moment that I think even like it's been 2 years since we did this hike, but looking back on my mind with Moosilauke, this is what I think of.
Vert. This is it, folks.
I just used your pronunciation. I just switched from Moosilauke. I turned over to Team Moosilauke. But this section is glorious, without a doubt.
You included it in the video, but randomly enough, Hannah, at some point on the hike up, was like, I would like to be in a cloud. And it's just so funny looking at this, like, it was like it was blue sky day, not a ton of clouds in sight.
No, not at all. Yeah, and it is amazing that it was pulling up to the mountains. The summit looked shrouded in clouds as we were driving up, and Hannah said, "I'd love to like touch a cloud."
Exactly.
So here we are at the summit, and you're not seeing a whole lot of clouds near us, and just
or they're
stick
there,
around
but
for a
they're
second.
not.
Yeah.
They're not on us. And then and this is what I was talking about before. Even on the summit, it was very comfortable out. Like we're all in like tank tops or short sleeves there. You can see with Willow's hair there, we have some breeze going, but it was not cold at all. And we even sat there and had lunch and
we weren't there for a super long period of time, but we did eat lunch, and you could see how gorgeous that looks. And then what's amazing about the mountains is how unbelievably fast it can change.
Willow's gonna sit on Dad's lap.
Come here, Willow. Willow, here.
I got her.
Come on, girl.
Come on, girl.
We just walked through a cloud, or the cloud went through us.
Yeah.
I think that shot shows it perfectly of, oh, okay, we have blue skies and now we're in a cloud. And it was, I'm not talking, this was not like dangerously cold and by any,
But the change is dramatic.
the change is dramatic. It was fun and it was exciting. The girls were really kind of enjoying that feeling of like, like physically feeling kind of the cool water mist around you.
The grass looks so
Having now done a whole lot more of these, and we'll get into our ratings in just a second, I would definitely up my feelings of Moosilauke in hindsight.
You know what I think I have to do is I think I have to stop rating mountains right after the descent. I hate descents, like, and so I think I get a little crabby, or just like grateful that I'm done towards the end. I think we should rate it on the summits for now on.
The ratings would certainly be higher on summits.
I think that we need to up ours because even just in terms of like memories of all these hikes we've had, this is one of the best.
Hannah, what would you rate on a 5-star scale Mount Moosilauke?
I would rate it a 4 because I got to touch some clouds.
You cloud touched?
Yeah.
All right, Julie. On a scale of 5 stars, what do you give Mount Moosilauke?
A 3.75.
Excellent.
I give it a 4, just like Hanny. I knocked it for bugs, and I didn't like the descent. I almost wish we had gone Gorge Brook the way back.
Here's the cracker.
4 out of 5 stars. High five.